Loktargar friends, hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Orc Mode workout. And today was Dynamic Effort Bench Press Day. Everything was predictable in this workout. There's no wild cards, nothing unexpected. It was just a nice, solid workout, hitting all my target numbers. Now, I will say that by the 8th or 9th set of my speed bench, it started feeling a little bit heavy, but we went ahead and did what's programmed. So, for those curious, this is the third week in the chain wave, which means it's the heaviest. So because my chains, it's a little ambiguous with a few pounds as far as the lead chains go, I'm counting that as around 4 or 5 pounds for the lead chains. So instead of doing 201, which should have been my prescribed bar weight, I went with 195. And I'm assuming about 5 pounds of extra surplus chain. And then I have 84 pounds of actual accommodation. So the chains themselves that are picking up off the floor is about 84 pounds. And in theory, it should be 83 based on the calculation. So we're real close. Everything's within a pound or two of our prescribed dynamic effort work. So it's 9 sets of 5 with compensatory acceleration. The first 3 sets, my pinkies are on the rings, right? So that is my wide grip. And I'm going to talk more about that later. That's something that comes up a lot. People are like, man, you don't ever have any shoulder issues from your years of benching and you're in your 40s. It's because I don't ever go past the rings. And that's something I'll talk about later. That's one of the factors. Like, if you want longevity in benching, I don't care that you get 10 more pounds or 20 more pounds on your max bench with a real wide grip. That's not going to keep your shoulders healthy up into your 40s and 50s. Sometimes you've got to sacrifice 10 pounds of bench press for longevity. And that's fine. Train inside the rings. So my pinkies are on the edge of the rings. And then the next 3, I'm right in the middle. So I'm halfway between the ring and the smooth. So a medium grip. And then the final 3, it's a closed grip bench, meaning my thumbs are pretty much right at the smooths in the middle. So it's wide, medium, close. So 3, 3, 3. So it gives me a different training effect. And you know what's interesting is that I can feel the difference because of the nature of the speed work and the compensatory acceleration. Because what we're doing is we're getting an overspeed eccentric. That's why there's no pause. I pause on the heavy work, right? With these, I'm trying to reverse it at the bottom. And it's because we were getting a stretch reflex due to the eccentric and then reversing it and trying to push against the accommodating resistance as fast as possible. Because it's a lightweight at the bottom, I mean, we're talking about just over 200 pounds at the bottom. That's literally nothing for me. I'm not even getting any real benefit from the pause. It really is just about the speed at that point and then trying to get against those chains as quickly as possible. My pause work is going to be its own training. And when I start doing floor press again, that's paused. The incline bench is paused, right? This stuff doesn't need to be. It's just not necessary. So the difference I noticed, though, is that I can feel it working the different things. The wider grip, my pecs were completely lit up, right? They were actually throbbing by the 3rd set, and even the medium grip. And I didn't feel anything in my triceps, right? It felt like all chest. And interestingly enough, when I started doing the closed grip, all 3 sets, I felt it in my triceps. To the point to where just that 3 sets of speed work with the closed grip, when I got to my Skullcrushers later, my triceps were still lit up. The Skullcrushers were really, really challenging. They were harder today with the same weight than they were on Tuesday after max benching. Like, this stuff takes a lot out of you. But there's something to be said for speed work. I think the speed work is one of the reasons I've been recomping successfully. And thank you for those of you who noticed. And it's like I said yesterday, I mentioned this stuff yesterday, and even a friend of mine who watches my training clips, someone I've known a long time for years, he actually commented to me today. He goes, yeah, it's getting obvious at this point. He's like, you can tell that your recomping is actually coming along. He's like, you look the best I think I've ever seen you look. Which is interesting. I mean, there's something to be said for this style of training. All the guys who train this way are jacked. They are all jacked. This is a maximum jactitude style of powerlifting. It really is. And notice how much they eat just to keep their body weight up. You know, the guys who are somewhat fat who train this way, who still keep a higher body fat, if you notice how much they eat, they eat donuts and stuff every day. A lot of them do, like the West Side guys. This stuff recomps you. The style of training recomps you, and there's something to be said for it. And so I think when you're doing the keto type diet like I do, and again, notice the guys who do conjugate, who do keto type diets, they tend to get relatively peeled eventually. Not at first, it takes a long time. So it's just worth noting, I'm actually seeing the same response we see in all these other athletes who train this way, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious at this point. I'm losing body fat, but I'm not cutting. Like, I'm actually up as of now. Between now and January, I've gained exactly 2 pounds of body weight. But I've lost body fat. So it's working. It's working. Then we did the rows. And because I'm cutting the rows out, I'm doing 6 sets now. Because I'm cutting rows out on squat and deadlift day, I'm going to do 6 sets on my bench days. So that's going to give me 6 sets of rows twice a week. 12 sets is fine. The reason some people say, well, wouldn't you want a little bit more? Well, maybe in theory, but because of the way it's spaced, I'm getting enough accumulation of fatigue in each workout. We're getting good muscle growth. And all those muscles are getting other work. People say, what do you mean? All my deadlifts and my good mornings and everything else work a lot of the same muscles in the back that the row works, right? People would say, well, the rear delts and stuff aren't, and the biceps aren't. Well, that's true. But my rear delts get worked with my side laterals. Side laterals, when you're bent over slightly the way I do them, do work your rear delts. This is direct work for the rear delts, and that one's secondary work. So what are we ending up with? Something in the range of, we would say maybe 7 to 8 effective sets. If we want to count half of the side lateral towards rear delt for volume, that's going to give me 7.5 sets twice a week. That's 15 work sets for rear delts every week. Limit sets, that's reasonable. Same thing with the biceps. We count these rows. If we count rows as half sets, and then we do 3 sets to failure with the curls, that gives me 6 quality sets twice a week. Well, 5 to 10 quality sets is what seems to maximize hypertrophy done around twice a week. So we're fine. We're in that optimal range. And that's what we're coming to now with this training. It is at this point about optimizing my training. It is about optimizing it. And I tell people optimal's hard to do. Don't focus a lot on optimal unless you're a very advanced lifter. You won't achieve it. It requires a lot of fine tuning. And most people don't have the experience outside of a coach to ever optimize their training. But for me, that is the goal. I've got to get my training optimal. And it's got to be optimal for my lifestyle, my diet, the fact that I'm not bulking. Right. Then we did the Skullcrushers. I'm sticking with this weight for just a bit. This is a challenging weight, especially considering we're progressing on other things. To even be able to do the same weight now, since today was the heaviest speed bench day, right? This was an increase in weight versus last week. So to even be able to do this again after my benching, I'm happy with it. I don't have to increase on this all the time. It just needs to have a gradual upward trend. But specifically, since we're progressing on the primary movements, I'm not going to freak out if these limit sets on Skullcrushers aren't progressing all the time. Now, if need be, if they stall a real long time, we'll do them with chains. All right, we'll do them with chains. But right now, they're really challenging. I've kind of reached a point with the weight where this is tough. Like, these are hard. I don't feel like I could do another rep. So I'm within one rep of failure. And especially after having done the speed bench, those closed grip speed benches actually lit my triceps up pretty good. And I noticed it even on these as I was warming up. I could still feel my triceps from that. So I'm like, okay, hopefully I can do the Skullcrushers today. And I got them. So I was happy with that. I was a little worried when I first grabbed it on the first set and started doing reps. I'm like, am I going to be able to get to 8? And I did, but I don't think I could have done 9. Bumped the weight a hair on these. I think I'm going to stick here for now. I'm trying to just do 3 sets to failure and stick around no more than 10 reps. So if we start exceeding 10 reps, we need to increase weight. And for those curious, each chain is 19 pounds, 2 chains per side. So it's 38 pounds in each hand. All right. And again, we can see that from here at this point, that front view. The body fat's slowly coming off it. But like I said, let's go back over the point. I want to make it clear, and I have to say this a lot, I'm not cutting. And the reason I say that is that so many people create forum posts and videos talking about my 5-year cut. I have not been cutting at all this year. I've done no weight loss this year. Not trying to cut. We need to make that clear. So I'm just recomping. I want to stay similar body weight. And people have said you can't do it. Well, or you're not going to be able to do it. Well, I am. I'm clearly leaner than I was earlier this year. It's been a slow process, but I haven't lost weight. What do we call that? That's called a recomp. It means I'm gaining muscle, losing fat. Now, my lifestyle's got to be perfect to pull that off. My training's got to be perfect. I'm having to optimize my training. My diet has to be pretty well. Everything's got to be on point. I had to cut out any extraneous bullshit in my life. Keep my stress low. There you go. That one was failure. Then we did our hammer curls. Added only a couple pounds today. But I still managed to get my sets of 10. So that's fine. That's fine. I'll try to progress on this as I can. If people notice there's a half a chain hanging down, that's how I tune my weights. So since I know how long each half length of chain is, if I take one of the chains and just undo one end so that I'm only doing half the chain and the other half stays on the floor, I count half that chain weight off the weight. See, since that's a 12-pound chain on each side, 6 of it staying on the floor, I counted as adding 6 pounds. See how that works? So we're going to count this as about 44 pounds per hand. Because again, 38 pounds of chain in each hand with another 6 from a half chain. It's 44 pounds. I think it's a pretty good weight for now for hammer curls. They'll get the job done. We're right there, trying to stay in that optimal volume range with progressive overload and quality reps. We're doing fairly high volume, but we don't want any junk volume, because junk volume is a problem when you're not bulking. Got to stay within your maximum recoverable volume. Train optimally. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.